Hello, my name is Alan Kapulski. This is my final presentation for Foundations of Integrated Studies, HUMN 2160-201, fall of 2023. Integrated studies are a concept that is deeply rooted in the philosophy of education that can be understood through the lens of such works as Gardner's 5 Minds for the Future, Plato's Thaeatetus, and Hesse's Siddartha. This approach to learning transcends traditional disciplinary boundaries, promoting a holistic and interconnected understanding of knowledge. So, to start with, in Gardner's 5 Minds for the Future, he offers up the idea that education should foster 5 distinct types of minds. The disciplined mind, which is described as identifying truly important topics or concepts within a particular discipline, which cause spending a significant amount of time on that topic, where you approach the topic in as many ways as you possibly can, and then set up performances of understanding where you have a whole bunch of opportunities to perform these perceptions under a variety of circumstances and conditions. It is of note that Gardner suggests that one aspect of the disciplined mind is a person's capacity to allow themselves to evolve in their understanding of a skill, a craft, or a body of knowledge to the point where they could possibly change their mind. Gardner also suggests that a disciplined mind can perhaps go a little too far when it comes to unchecked obsessiveness or compulsivity. So then there's a different type of mind that he suggests that is called the synthesizing mind, where that mind is possessing the qualities of incorporating a compelling new idea that has been created, seizing on the moment to explore within this idea that something important has come up. And to truly understand it, we need to place it in its proper context. So a better idea of this is a kind of synthesizing mind in the way that it works when a serious problem arises and you're confronted with it, and current areas of expertise are not enough to solve it. So a third type of mind that Gardner suggests is the creating mind. And that's a mind where a person who thinks this way is to extend knowledge and exhaust it to its very limits, and to establish new horizons and exciting new ways of thinking about them. So people with creative minds, or the creating mind, if you cultivate that in yourself, you would definitely see tradition as something to be maybe overthrown, while at the same time you could be masterful in that actual craft that you're expressing. But there's a fourth type of mind that Gardner suggests, and that is the respectful mind. And that's the one that embodies the concept of profound tolerance and setting aside of petty cultural differences towards the better understanding of the value of common cultural tradition, language, and kinship amongst people. And that's the respectful mind. Then finally he offers up the idea of the ethical mind, And that's the one where you put into action when somebody compassionately states with honesty that they are trying to achieve what they are trying to achieve. So in this way you can provide an exemplary behavior, the ability to understand that there is always room for improvement, and to understand the true meaning of accountability. So integrated studies align very well with Gardner's vision by emphasizing the synthesizing mind in particular, in my estimation, but it encourages learners to connect the ideas from various disciplines and foster a capacity to synthesize knowledge and apply it to real-world situations. So then there we come to a different place, and that's in ancient Greece, where this is where we draw inspiration from Plato's Theaetetus. So this is where integrated studies aim to transcend mere opinion, what they called in ancient Greeks doxa, and move towards true knowledge, which is this concept of episteme. That's where we get epistemology. So in this dialogue by Plato, Socrates and Theaetetus explore the nature of knowledge, discussing how it involves true belief coupled with an account of, or explanation. That's kind of how the discussion goes. And one illustration of this is when the dialogue between Socrates and Theaetetus goes something like this. Socrates says, "Then the whole does not consist of parts, for if it did, it would be all the parts, and so would be a sum." And then Theaetetus says, "It looks as if it doesn't." Socrates says, "What kind of parts is such be a part of anything but the whole?" Theaetetus says, "Yes, necessarily." Socrates says, "And won't this very same thing, that from which nothing anywhere is lacking, be a whole? While a thing from which something is absent is neither a whole nor a sum, the sum consequence having followed from the same condition in both cases at once?" And Theaetetus says, "Well, it doesn't seem to me now that there can be any difference between whole and sum." And Socrates says, "Well, now, we're not saying that in the case of the things that has parts, both the whole and the sum will be all the parts." Theaetetus agrees and says, "Yes, certainly." So, in the context of integrated studies, this dialogue suggests that a whole is not just the sum of its parts, but an interconnected entity where each part plays a role in creating a more profound understanding of the subject. It underscores the idea that interdisciplinary approaches can lead to a more comprehensive and meaningful exploration of complex topics. Integrated studies echoes this notion by encouraging learners to seek not just the fragmented facts, but deeper understanding and explanations that bridge the gap between subject areas. So, in a different kind of way, Hesse's Siddartha takes us on a different journey of self-discovery where the character of Siddartha seeks knowledge and wisdom through various life experiences. Integrated studies, in a similar way, advocates for a well-rounded education that encompasses diverse experiences and perspectives. So, in Siddhartha's quest for enlightenment, that's a parallel to the holistic pursuit of knowledge that integrated studies promotes. Siddhartha's journey, I think, represents a deep quest for wisdom and self-discovery, much like the multidisciplinary and interconnected nature of integrated studies. So there are glaring limitations, in my view, of Siddartha's perspective when viewed through the lens of contemporary societal values and inclusivity. Okay, so because, I don't know, in today's world, I feel that the time is ripe to expand beyond individual enlightenment to encompass a more inclusive understanding of the world, indigenous cultures, economically marginalized communities, and the often underrepresented voices of women. And I believe all of those that I mentioned contribute in an incomparable way immensely to the rich tapestry of human experiences and knowledge. So Siddartha's journey, while profound, to my view, in its own right, it sidelines and dismisses the wealth of experiences and perspectives of those groups that don't previously get to be heard. And with that in mind, it is fascinating to me how Howard Gardner highlights the issue of cultural myopic ineptitude within westernized classrooms. He actually talks about that. And to me, this underlines the importance of embracing diverse perspectives and narratives within our educational systems. So in the fictitious landscape assumed by Hermann Hesse's fictionalized imagination of Siddartha's time, these perspectives might not have been widely acknowledged or integrated into the mainstream discourse. But in my view, there's no excuse, especially because he was in the 20th century writing this. So it is important to remember that the holistic approach of integrated studies should also include an openness to different cultures, marginalized voices, and, like I said, an elevation of women's roles and contributions. By doing that, we can create a more enriched educational experience for everyone. And so, in the context of education, I believe that integrated studies advocates for a curriculum that transcends the compartmentalization of subjects. Instead, it encourages education to design learning experiences that facilitate the synthesis of knowledge from various domains. So, this approach acknowledges that knowledge is not a series of isolated facts, but it's actually a web of interconnected ideas. It also allows students to observe the interplay between the disciplines, demonstrating that the boundaries between subjects are often artificial. So, when someone's studying, let's say, environmental issues, the students can explore scientific aspects like with biology and chemistry, and if there's social implications, you can study it through sociology, and if there are ethical considerations from that subject, you could definitely incorporate philosophy in an integrated manner. So, this holistic approach to learning mirrors the idea that knowledge is not confined to discrete compartments, but it, again, exists in a complex, interconnected whole. And in essence, the concept of integrated studies not only aligns with Gardner's vision of fostering things like a synthesizing mind, but also Plato's pursuit of true knowledge and what he was putting out there, as well as Hesse's exploration of holistic wisdom. It recognizes that knowledge is not fragmented, but it's dynamic and an interconnected tapestry of ideas that transcends boundaries. So my perspective on knowledge is that it's a multifaceted and interconnected entity that goes way beyond where the accumulation of facts and information exist. I believe that knowledge aligns with the idea that it encompasses not only what I know, but also how I can apply and integrate that knowledge effectively. And here are a few points within that. Holistic understanding employs knowledge, not confined to isolated silos, but a holistic understanding that actually transcends the boundaries. Regarding the practical application of knowledge, I prefer to emphasize the significance not just of the acquisition of knowledge, but also retaining and applying it in real life, in real world scenarios where all these skills can be used for problem solving. And in terms of the interconnected learning, that is what highlights the interconnected nature of knowledge acquisition, of integrated studies. And it encourages learners to see the interplay between different disciplines, definitely. And it fosters a sense of how these areas relate to each other. And, with critical thinking, definitely, there is an ability to put it all together and challenge people to analyze, evaluate, and connect ideas. And finally, thinking about practicality and relevance, it is important. There's a lot of importance in knowledge that stresses pragmatic and real-world scenarios. So definitely integrated studies align with that idea, and it's very relevant, and it's multifaceted, and it challenges what you think. So in the final analysis for me, knowledge elegantly dovetails seamlessly with the principles of integrated studies. Both knowledge and integrated studies emphasize interconnectedness and the practical application of learning and the development of critical thinking skills. That's kind of it. Integrated studies definitely provide a pedagogical framework that resonates with my view of knowledge and fosters a more profound and meaningful educational experience that prepares people to navigate a very complex world that we live in. Thank you for listening, and have a great week.